users.
Okay, so thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you very much for having us here to present a project that started very recently. So InterConnect is a project that actually started and kicked off less than a month ago. So we're just here presenting the main ideas and main challenges that have been already discussed somehow in this session. It's coordinated by InterConnect, and I'm part of the Center for Power and Energy Systems of InterConnect. So what is the objective of the project? It's actually to look for a multi-domain perspective and try to implement different interoperability strategies for buildings and for the grid side. So these are different domains, these are different, let's say, fields with different needs and restrictions. And one of the objectives is actually to create a reference architecture for all of these different domains, ranging from the buildings until the electric grid. So this means that we need to create ways of supporting new services and new approaches, and actually to contribute towards the removal of barriers between systems and devices that exist right now. So try to reduce as much as possible middleware, as much as possible devices in between that actually contribute to a not very good objective of consuming even more than the key point of efficiency, energy efficiency. And of course, we will be demonstrating this in large-scale pilots in 7 countries. One of the key points here is also to bridge the gap with the citizens, to actually to have a technology platform, to create the services. It only makes sense if we involve the end consumers and the citizens. And this is achieved both from the energy and non-energy perspective. And non-energy, we're talking about of comfort, of indoor air quality, so something that is very dear to the end users, and energy, which is not so much, but it's also part of the puzzle. So these are the areas that are to be addressed by the project. So one fundamental area is the creation of a common ontology. So we already heard Joseph from EUW talk about SAREF. So SAREF is a departing point for the ontology, and SAREF combined with standardization initiatives will allow us to create interoperable digital platforms. So one of the key points of the project is to actually, at the mid of the project, to have open digital platforms for everyone to use, including the project itself. Also, the focus will be on creating IoT tools to support the interconnection of different devices and systems, to support also cloud and local implementations of IoT implementations, and to go through the electric grid, big data, and cybersecurity overall. So this is just a depiction of the approach that we'll be having here. So again, we're creating a reference architecture. We're developing multiple digital platforms. We're having user-centric approaches, and we're creating innovation for new services. So the way we will do it, we can discuss on the side on the details, but the fundamental goals is actually to demonstrate this in large-scale pilots, to actually create a marketplace for applications with these digital platforms, and with it ensure that interoperability is actually a goal that it's reached. As a center point, again, mentioned again, it's the involvement of end users. One of the points here to consider is the nature of the domains. So if we are discussing here the nature of the electric grid, we're talking about a regulated domain. If we're talking about the buildings, we're talking about typically a non-regulated domain. So with different degrees of freedom on each side that need to be tackled here. So you can see on this schematic just an example of the digital technology that will be made available. Again, these technologies will be made available openly to several stakeholders for the project and besides the project. A key point that I'll mention in a while is that this project will have a cascaded funding. So other stakeholders interested to be part of the project will have smaller financing to be part of the project and to implement their own solutions, digital solutions, and to cooperate with us. Bottom line and restriction, to be interoperable. That's the nature, to follow the same ontologies. So very briefly, this means that we're involving from the electric sector, mainly the DSOs, also connected with the TSOs, of course. And the unregulated domain, we're talking about buildings, reach out for communities in the pilots also, and to include manufacturers in the whole chain of process. So manufacturers, we have a large group of manufacturers being part of the project, and it's important that we raise their attention, and we have competitive partners in the consortium, and it's really important to have their role in supporting us here. So, as outcomes, of course, already mentioned the interoperability between domains with the reference architecture, the fact that we include from the get-go the initial points from the existing recommendation and standards existing, and actually at the end in a cycle contribute to that same standardization and recommendations, but focus on the improvement of customer energy management, because we have the technology underlying as a platform, but we have energy on top and energy services on top. We need for that to create a digital marketplace for different business models to be supported with different digital platforms. So it's kind of building a different puzzle set with different digital technologies to create services. In fact, this needs also to bridge the gap with the grid. So the grid, it's usually a more complex domain with more interlinked dependencies on interoperability and on standardization. But also to make sure that, for instance, if you want to exploit flexibility, or energy flexibility in the consumer side, you have a clear way of communicating with the grid partners. So again, to create these tools for the DSOs. And of course, to promote these business use cases related to this. So, we are a very big project. 51 partners, and these are the main domains associated to them. So, we have partners from R&D and consultancy. We have several manufacturers and associations. One of them, eBus, also presented here the view from Josef Baumeister. IoT, ICT providers, some DSOs, and retailers and end users. Some of these partners are one side, retailers and also end users, because the buildings that we're considering are domestic buildings, tertiary and industrial buildings in separate clusters. Just to keep in mind, I've mentioned this a while ago, this cascaded funding, it's really an opportunity for people at the end of the second year of the project, where all of the tools will be made available openly, to actually come up with some challenges of their own for the project. And we will have two different types of calls opened with around 3.6 million euro to support this initiative. So the idea is to have shorter projects. The type is interoperable prototypes with 7 months duration, and also a demonstration of technology within 4 months. So very quickly to clearly show the benefit of digital platforms for the business. The pilots that we have right now, just a brief overview, are set in Portugal, France, Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, Italy, and Greece, all with different characteristics and involving very different buildings with a really large dimension. So we have pilots with more than 100 households all together, creating this synergy between platforms to create the business models and to support the new services that are being designed in the project. And collaboration. One of the strongest points here of this project is to create the necessary collaboration with stakeholders other than those that we have in the consortium. Granted that we are a large consortium, but the large group of the group of all stakeholders involved here, it's way larger than this project. And even a project like this one with 36 million euros wouldn't be enough to cover the whole plethora of partners and entities that really should be involved in this interoperability challenge. So the large-scale pilots, where we will demonstrate these solutions in actual use cases in buildings and grids. The marketplace creation of tools will be available to all general public, and this interoperability verification on ontologies will be made both from the design of the architecture and the implementation on the field. And of course, this need to involve other stakeholders like end users in this puzzle. So just to give you an idea, the objective of the pilots is also to involve a lot of the associations, ranging from associations on IoT up to the full-fledged standardized or standardization associations. Very quickly, if you have any questions, I'll be more than welcome to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. So yeah, probably you stay also for the panel from 4:44. Okay, so people can ask you or can ask questions.